This video is part 2 in a two-part series of videos where I predict everything about the first chapter of the DCU titled Gods and Monsters. Part 1 focused on everything up until the final project that's been officially confirmed and covered 12 projects. Now part 2 will cover the remaining 14 projects, all of which has been made up by me based off of what came before. Watch part 1 if you haven't already to not have any gaps in knowledge about the details of what I'll be covering and what I've covered so far. With that out of the way, make sure to subscribe and like this video, and let's begin. As of the end of part 1, we were around halfway through 2027, and we still are. So now we have the third and final season of Creature Commandos releasing its 7 30-minute episodes between June and July 2027. This season in particular will be a pretty big one, kind of the first large crossover of the DCU, making it far easier to be done seeing as it is completely animated. The story, following up on Season 2, follows Warlord finding a way back to Earth to wage war against America for Checkmate killing his son. Checkmate sends all of its operatives to fend them off, including the Creature Commandos, which now also includes Man-Bat, because why not? All the characters from Creature Commandos, like Jonah Hex, the 2 remaining losers, Gunner McKay and Sarge Clay, and the 1 remaining Blackhawk, Zinda Blake, who now goes by Lady Blackhawk. Also, all the members of Checkmate, including Deathstroke, and also the Terrifics who work for the government, all appear in animated form. And finally, this war separately attracts the heroes of America, who all appear in animated form as well, including Superman, the Beatles, Booster Gold, the Green Lanterns, Green Arrow, the entire Bat family, Peacemaker, Vigilante, Judo Master, and introducing Wonder Woman, Black Canary, The Flash, and Kid Flash. As hinted at in the previous video, Flash is currently Barry Allen and Kid Flash is Wally, although he's made fun of for this name given that he's 20 years old, and that will be followed up on in a project the following year. We'll get to that in this video. Then, in a last-ditch effort, Warlord unleashes a powerful magical artifact from Skartaris, with which he kills a few named characters like Gunner McKay from The Losers, Dr. Phosphorus, and Johnny Economos, who is maybe the biggest death of this season, just because he's been around for a bit longer than everyone else. The Skartarians are then defeated, but not before the use of the weapon awakens the center. Warlord is taken prisoner, and everyone else is allowed to return to Skartaris. At this point, Checkmate remains fully in the shadows as the heroes of Earth get credit for pushing back the invasion. It was, however, the Creature Commandos that mostly saved the day. At some point during the season, Rick Flag Sr. becomes aware that Peacemaker killed his son, setting up Peacemaker Season 3, where Rick Flag will make his live-action debut. As mentioned in the previous video, Swamp Thing will not be getting a sequel, at least not a proper one. Instead, there will be a few solo movies for the members of Justice League Dark before a Justice League Dark movie that it all leads up to, as I don't think they really each support a trilogy individually. Preferably, all these movies would be directed by the same person and feel like one long connected plot thread that can be viewed as sort of sequels to each other. That person is the director of Swamp Thing, again, preferably, which is James Mangold. The second of these movies after Swamp Thing is Zatanna, releasing in October 2027. Zatanna features her origin story being raised by her father, Giovanni Zatara, meeting Swamp Thing and Etrigan along the way, and facing off against Nick Necro, a fellow magician, her ex-boyfriend, and the main villain. This wouldn't connect to the overarching story of the chapter in any way. It's more of a standalone movie whose goal is mainly to introduce Zatanna, but also to have a bit of a Justice League Dark mini-movie here with Zatanna, Swamp Thing, and Etrigan, again leading into an actual Justice League Dark movie. However, that will be in Chapter 2, so I won't be getting to that in this video. One of the DC characters who James Gunn has hinted at the most is Green Arrow, a superhero he said was his favorite as a kid. In this chapter, Green Arrow will be getting his first movie called Green Arrow Checkmate. Checkmate is actually the title of an episode of Arrow, but I swear I completely forgot about that. It was not on purpose, and also it has to do with a completely different Checkmate. Green Arrow Checkmate also maybe could just be called Green Arrow, but it releases in December 2027, and if you couldn't already tell, features Checkmate and is heavily connected to one side of the chapter's overarching plot, again, the Checkmate one. Oliver is 34 years old and became Green Arrow 10 years ago. Dinah Lance is 30 and became Black Canary 8 years ago, which is a mantle she took from her great-grandmother, who was a member of the JSA. The two have acted independently from each other this entire time, but met in Creature Commandos Season 3 and are now becoming very frequent and flirtatious partners. Roy Harper is 20, became Speedy 7 years ago, but switched to Arsenal 2 years ago. None of the other Green Arrow family characters appear yet. The plot follows Green Arrow going after his archenemy Count Vertigo, leading him to investigate and uncover to the world a secret government organization led by Amanda Waller called Checkmate, who's been manipulating world events and the superhero community specifically for 3 years now. The biggest reveal to the world is that Checkmate actually created the war with Skartaris, but also was responsible mostly for stopping it, although again that was the creature Commandos. Oliver's investigations lead into crossing paths with the Question, who's investigating Checkmate as well. Count Vertigo acts as the main entry point to Checkmate for Oliver, but he's also the main villain of the movie. Other Green Arrow villains like Constantine, Draken, and Brick appear as well, but also Deathstroke technically if you want to count him because he is a member of Checkmate. Set up by Creature Commandos Season 3, Peacemaker Season 3, which is also the final season, releasing between January and February 2028, concludes a 7-year-old plot thread that began in the Suicide Squad, as Rick Flag Sr. seeks revenge against Peacemaker for killing his son, all while the world is still reeling from the unveiling of Checkmate to the world, and also the war between Checkmate and Skartaris. The season would end with Peacemaker finally paying for Rick Flag's murder, with Eagly's death at the hands of Rick Flag Sr. being the biggest consequence. Peacemaker kills yet another Flag in retaliation, and he and Vigilante are both arrested for the murder, leading to Waller using her old Suicide Squad tactics to promise both of them their freedom in exchange for working for her at Checkmate. The first true movie sequel in the DCU would be Superman Truth and Justice, releasing in February 2028, and would be a sequel not just to Superman Legacy, but also technically to The Authority, and would actually be directed by the director of The Authority, who's probably Matthew Vaughn. As for one, James Gunn just made Peacemaker Season 3 a month ago, so he wouldn't have the ability to make both of them at the same time, but also because I think this movie should have a tone that's closer to The Authority than Superman Legacy. The plot follows the Authority returning from sliding all beyond 28 years after they left, finding an entirely new world full of heroes that mostly forgot about them. The Authority returns right back to their old ways and even recruits the spirit of the 21st century, the 28-year-old Jenny Quantum. And as humanity begins to lose faith in his ways and begins to embrace the authorities yet again, Superman shows the world the true meaning of truth, justice, and the American way in a very similar way to the comic book story What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, or its movie adaptation Superman vs. the Elite. The story would definitely deviate from the comic, as the Authority are a bit more heroic than the Elite, so Superman's display to the world manages to turn most of the Authority to his side, including Midnighter, Apollo, the Engineer, and Jenny Quantum. However, Jack Hawksmoor and the Doctor are not turned to his side. Jack Hawksmoor is a bit smarter, so he's the actual true main villain of the movie that is mostly fought by Superman, while the Doctor is a lot more powerful, so he's fought by all the rest of the Authority combined. The battle between Superman and Jack Hawksmoor would happen in the middle of Metropolis, where he is at his most powerful, because Jack Hawksmoor is powered by cities. He gets his power from cities, and Metropolis is, I think, probably the biggest city on Earth, so he would be at his most powerful. In the end, they defeat him, and along the way, Batman and Robin appear as well in a very small role. It's about time, I think, that we end the break the 2023 forced on the Flash franchise after a terrible final season and a show that just got worse and worse over time, and a bad movie that flopped very hard. Either a movie or a TV show are possible. I'd prefer a movie, probably, but I predict a TV show is a bit more likely, a third TV show at that, one called The Flash, the Fastest Man Alive. Season 1 releases its 13 45-minute episodes between February and June 2028. Barry Allen is 36 and became The Flash 11 years ago. Wally West is 21 and became Kid Flash 7 years ago, and despite being 21, he is still Kid Flash, as he's having a very difficult time leaving that identity behind despite his age. Barry and Iris have been married for around 5 years and have two 3-year-old children named Dawn and Don. Although there's no Justice League yet, Barry has teamed up and is close friends with Hal Jordan, Clark Kent, and Bruce Wayne, all of whom appear at his funeral. That's what the plot is about. Barry Allen dies, as Wally West is clearly established as the main villain of this universe and for the entire 10-year plan. During a fight with the Reverse Flash, Barry Allen sacrifices his life to push Eobard into the Speed Forest to save Central City, leaving a grieving 21-year-old Wally West to pick up the mantle of the Flash. Wally struggles with this, as he's never been as fast as Barry and is now starting to find himself constantly tired and hungry, as running depletes him completely of energy, leaving him able to fall asleep for like 16 hours at a time. After a brief respective period of ceasefire, the Rogues take advantage of Flash's death by going on an all-out heisting assault in Central and Keystone City. Wally fails to stop most of it, causing him to feel more like a failure, and while all this is happening, Wally meets Linda Park and starts to date her, but also the audience watches Barry and Eobard continue their fight in the Speed Force. While everyone thinks they died, Barry does escape the Speed Force just in time to stop the Rogue's big plan, where Wally failed. Wally is extremely relieved that his mentor and uncle has returned, obviously, but soon realizes that he kind of hasn't. In the Speed Force, Thawne managed to combine his and Barry's essence into one being that looks like Barry, and with Barry acting as a second viewing and emotion-affecting consciousness, while Thawne is in full control. When Wally learns this, he manages to break through what he now knows is a mental block to run faster than Barry ever did, defeating Thawne and allowing Barry to rest in peace. In the one episode Nightwing appears teaming up with the Flash, we now know the two of them are best friends, while the Teen Titans have never existed as of right now. The Flash and Batman did team up a lot, so Robin and Kid Flash teamed up a lot as well and became best friends. Acting as a follow-up to Paradise Lost is Wonder Woman and the Gods of Olympus, releasing in April 2028. Not Wonder Woman 3, this is a reboot featuring a new actress who previously appeared in Creature Commandos Season 3. Wonder Woman's lore goes back to World War II in this universe, a key member of the JSA, and a Captain America-like cultural icon after that. After superheroes were outlawed in the 50s, Diana returned to Themyscira, only to return to man's world after the Age of Heroes began, inspired by Superman and Batman's debuts. Donna Troy is 21 years old and became Wonder Girl 8 years ago, but retired 2 years ago, which is why she did not appear in Creature Commandos. The plot follows Diana and Donna finding out about Cassandra Sandsmark, a demigoddess who's the daughter of Lennox, who himself is the son of Zeus, leading Diana, Donna, and Cassandra to go on a journey through the world of the old gods to uncover the truth behind their origins, revealing to Diana what we already learned from Paradise Lost, that everything there is to know about the center. In the end, Cassandra becomes Wonder Girl, but remains in Olympus for a bit while Diana returns to Earth, as does Donna, leading into the next movie in this universe, which is the Justice League movie, or at the very least, the first one. This brings us to the first of two finales in the chapter, not yet bringing in the center, but instead bringing to an end an overarching Checkmate plot in a movie called Justice League of America that releases in July 2028. Following the events of Green Arrow Checkmate, the heroes of America come together to take down Checkmate once and for all. This is a smaller scale Justice League movie compared to the next one, featuring only really the founding members, who are 7 characters. The lead now consists of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Arrow, Black Canary, and John Stewart, Green Lantern, who all face off against the very large forces of Checkmate, including Deathstroke, Peacemaker, Vigilante, Judo Master, the Creature Commandos. Although Rick Flag Sr. is now dead, it now also includes Killer Croc and Solomon Grundy. Jack Hawksmoor has been recently recruited, although the Doctor, let's say, died, Captain Atom, who's introduced here, and even the Terrifics, who do still work for the US government. Those last 5 characters, including Captain Atom, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Metamorpho, do turn on the bad guys and actually join the Justice League. Acting as third-party characters who are present but don't join the Justice League and are not members of Checkmate are The Question, Zatanna, and Manhunter. Those who don't show up include Supergirl and Hal Jordan, who are in space still, Booster Gold and the Beatles, who are somewhere in the time stream, the Bat Family, who remain in Gotham, the Wonder Girls, who are in Olympus, Roy Harper, who is retired, and Warlord and his allies are in Skartaris. The rest of the Justice League Dark characters simply don't appear for whatever reason. In the end, Justice League takes down Checkmate and Amanda Waller, who is basically the main villain of this movie, and officially forms the Justice League as a privately funded entity that serves the entire world. Although this movie is called Justice League of America because it's very America-based, the Justice League themselves just call themselves the Justice League. The lineup now includes Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, John Stewart, and Guy Gardner Green Lanterns, Green Arrow, Black Canary, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, and Captain Atom. This is the first finale, ending the Checkmate side of the plot, kind of acting as the finale to the monster side of the chapter, as Waller is kind of a monster. 2029 will now conclude the God side of the chapter, which obviously the main villain is the center. In fact, an end credit scene in this movie would show Warlord returning to Skartaris to find it absolutely decimated. He tries to escape to warn the people of Earth, but he himself is killed, and the center is coming. For a bit of a break following Justice League of America, the final already confirmed character by James Gunn debuts in this chapter, Vixen, with her own 8-episode animated TV show with 50-minute episodes that releases between January and February 2029, and introduces more of the gods of the DC Universe as the African gods are given focus, primarily Ananse, who created the Tantu totem that Mary McCabe finds herself in possession of. In some episodes, Vixen explores a bit of the lore of the Red, and as such introduces a few animal-based heroes like Bawanabeast, Black Orchid, and Animal Man, the latter of whom will get his own TV show in Chapter 2. Also, Swamp Thing appears in at least one episode because he is connected to the green, which is connected to the red. Vixen has had an animated series before, but that amounted to like maybe 1 hour of content in its entirety. This will be far higher quality, better written, better animated, and way longer. Blue Beetle flopped pretty hard in 2023, and although there's a lot of stories to tell, including with The Reach, he will not be getting any sequels as a consequence. However, Booster Gold features the two Beetles, although one of them only really in a small role. And now, so would a project that combines the two with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, a 10-episode TV show with 40-minute episodes releasing between February and April 2029. The show would focus on the friendship between Booster and Ted, but also Jaime is there as a bit of a third wheel. The main villain is Black Beetle, although not the one that's affiliated to The Reach as seen in Young Justice, but the time-traveling one as seen in the comics, whose identity and backstory is never actually explained, so they would definitely do that here. The show explains where these guys were during Justice League of America as they were going on an adventure through time, with something preventing them from going back to the point where they left from. It's important to note that in 2029, Jaime is 28 years old, putting him already in a very different role to the comics, but also it's surely time that the Reach comes to Earth. But even in 2029, I don't think that's something you could do in a live-action TV show without it being disappointing because of the budget, so that won't be happening in Chapter 1. Maybe in Chapter 2, they could do it in a Blue Beetle animated TV show or animated movie. Ideally, honestly, it would be a video game that takes place in and comes out in Chapter 1. But Blue Beetle, I don't think is a big enough IP to get his own video game. I mean, look at the superheroes who've gotten video games. It's really just Batman and Spider-Man, and now Wolverine's getting one. It's the big ones, and even Superman doesn't have one. So Blue Beetle is not very likely, but hey, anything could happen. The Brave and the Bold won't be getting a sequel until Chapter 2, although I'd make it the very first movie of Chapter 2. It will be getting a spin-off show, Nightwing, releasing its 13 45-minute episodes between March and June 2029, airing concurrently with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle because there's no real reason why two TV shows can't come out at the same time. They did that all the time in the Arrowverse for years. Nightwing would follow Dick, now 22 years old, finally leaving Gotham alongside his girlfriend, Barbara, and becoming Bloodhaven's hero. Each member of the Bat family appears in like an episode or two, although mostly separately, as does Wally West. The main villain is Blockbuster, in a show that takes primary inspiration from Tom Taylor's run on Nightwing, which is the most recent one. Remember though, Starfire, alongside the other three Teen Titans exclusive characters, haven't debuted yet, so definitely things could change. Nightwing is a bit of a street-level breather between big concept projects. Because the chapter is called Gods and Monsters, I felt it was a necessity to try to include a vast varying amount of gods from the DC universe. The most DC-specific ones are the new gods, who were planned to be getting a movie in the DCEU in the past. Now, pushing it to April 2029, the new gods will be getting a DCU set, theatrically released animated movie that does its best to recapture Jack Kirby's unique visuals. Focusing on Mr. Miracle as the main character, but also Big Barda, Orion, Lightray, and Forager in large roles, the movie tells the story of the new gods' lore up to Mr. Miracle's escape from Apocalypse, breaking the peace treaty between Apocalypse and New Genesis, causing a war between the two. The movie ends with a new peace treaty agreement where Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and Orion are banished from both Apocalypse and New Genesis, so they go to Earth. A very angry Darkseid renews his quest for the anti-life equation, potentially setting up maybe the villain of Chapter 2, but if nothing else, at least some more New Gods movies, if they don't want to use Darkseid as the main villain of Justice League movies. And finally, this brings us to the big finale of the chapter. Based loosely on Justice League The New Frontier, is a movie that's given more of a finale-like title, Justice League The Final Frontier, kind of like how Infinity War was actually based on Infinity Gauntlet, but with a bit of a name change. This would be pretty simple to explain. The Center is coming to eradicate all life on Earth, and the heroes of Earth put all their strength together to stop it. Justice League of America was a Justice League movie. This is a crossover event movie featuring every already introduced hero from across the DCU. Included are Superman, Supergirl, Krypto, Batman, Robin, Nightwing, Oracle, Batgirl, Red Robin, Spoiler, Wonder Woman, Wonder Girl, Donna Troy, The Flash, Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, Metamorpho, Mr. Terrific, Captain Atom, Green Arrow, Black Canary, Arsenal, Swamp Thing, Zatanna, Etrigan, Peacemaker, Vigilante, Judo Master, Booster Gold, Blue Beetle 2, Midnighter, Apollo, Engineer, Jenny Quantum, Frankenstein, Nina Mazursky, G.I. Robot, Manhunter, Question, Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, Orion, Vixen, Bwana Beast, Animal Man, Lady Blackhawk, Jonah Hex, Sarge Clay, Hippolyta, and the Themyscirians, and making his debut is Aquaman alongside Tempest, Mera, and an army of Atlanteans, and finally, Zeus and the gods of Olympus appear as well. Only a handful of them have large roles, mostly the protagonists of the projects of the chapter, but they do all appear in some sort of final battle with the Center, and his army of monstrous dinosaurs and other sort of miscellaneous monsters. One big death I'd put here is Ted Kord. Just as his and Booster's friendship has been strengthened, he makes a hero sacrifice, leaving only one Blue Beetle, as well as the death of Peacemaker, who completes his long arc in the DCU, as he's like one of the oldest characters to have appeared, going out a hero as well. I'd also kill off the last remaining loser, Sarge Clay, and also maybe Jonah Hex, but also of course the Center would be killed as well. The epilogue of the chapter, because I've been releasing these movies in October and I like the idea of an epilogue like they did with Spider-Man Far From Home for the Infinity Saga, is Constantine Hellblazer, the third movie in the Justice League Dark pseudo-trilogy focusing primarily on Constantine and introducing Deadman, while everyone else like Swamp Thing, Zatanna, and Etrigan appear in maybe a cameo. This movie introduces and features Constantine's entire supporting cast, including some that are exclusive to the Vertigo version of Constantine, like the love interest Epiphany Greaves, Richie Simpson, Gary Lester, and Chaz Chandler. It shows his origin story involving Astra, and features Nergal as the main villain, which is about as far as I'm going to go into the details of this movie. Some projects that I wanted to include here but couldn't find the room for, and so would be Chapter 2 projects, include a sequel to The Brave and the Bold, bringing back Jason Todd as Red Hood as the main villain, a Green Lantern Corps movie, but also an entire Green Lantern Corps trilogy, Supergirl 2, Green Arrow 2, a static animated movie, Justice League Dark, an Animal Man TV show that is probably animated, The Flash, The Fastest Man Alive Season 2, and a Teen Titans or Young Justice project, but also an appearance for Martian Manhunter. The main reason Martian Manhunter didn't appear is the IGN poll that James Gunn posted, where there are 10 characters and he said 5 of them are appearing in the chapter. The 5 that I decided are most likely to appear for this video are Zatanna, Constantine, Lobo, Deathstroke, and Nightwing. That leaves Brainiac in a cameo appearance in this chapter, but not really, it was just his drone. He will have a big role in Chapter 2, but also then there is like Mr. Freeze and the Court of Owls, who are not appearing at all. Jason Todd, who also only really appeared either in a cameo or was only mentioned, but certainly did not appear as Red Hood. And finally, the Martian Manhunter, who I definitely wanted to include, specifically in Justice League The Final Frontier, but because of this poll, I decided against it. This right here is my best guess for what Chapter 1 could look like, but also based off of the 10 projects that we know about already, or rather 11 with Peacemaker Season 2, this is how I would follow up on that with another 15 projects that would make up the chapter known as Gods and Monsters. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and what you would change, and make sure to subscribe, and thanks for watching.